Hi guys, I made this quick short video just to give you some key points and some of the things that was shared this past Monday for our monthly meetup, where we discussed alternative approaches to health and development. So this was one topic that I just wanted to dive in a little bit with my own journey with my kids, really looking at a lot of different approaches to help them with their health and also to support their development. And I just wanted to share some of the different things that I had found, and I wanted to see what other things parents had found out there. And as every family's unique, every child's unique, a lot of the things we shared may be great for one person, but may not be for the other. But at least if we know about the different things out there, we can decide for ourselves if that seems like it would be good for our child and us. And that was one of the things that we discussed, where some of the approaches are a bit too more in depth and require a lot of us to do after whatever the intervention is. And sometimes we can't follow through with some of the things because they are so in depth. And so that's something good to know too, where you're at and what you can handle as far as following through with recommendations when you do see practitioners or therapists that may do specialized approaches that require a lot on your part afterwards to follow through at home with certain things for them to work. So that was one thing, before starting anything new, ask the professional that you are talking with what it all entails, which is one thing that I think was a really good tip that was shared. So we talked about different things. I also put the link down below of one of my favorite organizations called Documenting Hope and Epic Answers. They have a great resource library of webinars of various different professionals, practitioners, sharing different sides of health and different approaches to supporting child development. One of the big ones that was shared on Monday, and many of us in different ways had also worked with these approaches, was vision therapy. I know my kids had gone through it because my one child had a lazy eye, and we had started with vision therapy to support his lazy eye. And actually, we started with surgery. And now looking back, I really wish I wouldn't have done the surgery first. I wish I would have gone straight to the vision therapy. But we make the best decisions at the moment with the information that we have. And this is why I'm doing this, to share different information so we can learn from others and go down a path that best fits us. So vision therapy, I think it's a great tool because a lot of our kids, what we don't realize is how much the visual system, and it's not just acuity, our vision is responsible for depth perception, feeling where we are in space, organizing information. There's so much that's involved. And when you go to a developmental ophthalmologist who specializes in vision therapy, they also do a lot of things actually that I do as an occupational therapist, along with the visual components, with the coordination. And a lot of people have really found some great results with that. So vision therapy was one tool that was shared. Another was, and I'm going to have to look over at the list of some of the things that people shared in the chat. Cranial sacral, that was another one. I know my kids have done it, and myself as well. And cranial sacral is a very gentle approach where you're very lightly touching the person, and you're basically opening up the cranial area, and you're making sure the bones and everything is moving and getting circulation. It's a wonderful tool. A lot of my kids, even kids that are very hyper, have done well with this type of approach. And one of the things I'm always concerned about, and I really put a lot of emphasis, is helping our children to feel more relaxed and at ease. A lot of our children with high needs are very stressed. And you know what? When your brain is stressed, everything is harder. And so cranial sacral massage, some other tools. The massage is great for proprioception too. Those tools, if that is an option for you and for your child, it's really a great tool. So those were some of the tools. And when you do pursue some of these alternatives, make sure they have experience with children. That's the other, that is the other thing that we had mentioned. And reflex integration. So this is very big right now. I had gone for my training in reflexive movement integration back in the early 2000s or late 2000s. And, it really does make a difference. There are many different programs. I know Brain Balance integrates reflex integration. Vision therapy also has reflex integration in it. A lot of OTs are using this with combination with a sensory integration approach, also working with the reflexes as well. A lot of kinesiologists are looking at the reflexes because sometimes, as we're a baby and then we get older, usually through movement, our reflexes naturally, our primitive naturally integrate, and then our brain and our body goes on to more mature postural reflexes. And it's a progression. But now babies aren't moving as much. They're not rolling. We're not on tummy time as much. And some babies, even with all of that nurturing that you give them, they still may have, most adults have retained reflexes, and some of it's okay. But sometimes it really can impact development. And especially when one of the reflexes in crossing midline, these are very important things to integrate. So reflex integration, if you want to look more into that, that's also a great resource. And some kinesiologists also know how to tap in, because one approach is going through the movements again, but another approach is doing the muscle test and releasing it. So there are different approaches to the reflex integration. And then we were talking a little bit about diet. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, gluten-free diet, right? It wasn't just about that. We were just talking about regular eating healthy, right? And not bombarding with preservatives. And even my kids in understanding what foods can trigger different behaviors. I know for my son, when he was an infant, he had from age 6 months to 1 year, had 6 ear infections. And when we stopped dairy, the ear infections stopped. So, was he having a reaction to the dairy? Maybe. But those are things to kind of look at. And for him, when we integrated, every once in a while, I would let him have dairy, especially we were with friends. Everyone was eating ice cream and I couldn't tell my child no, right? I didn't want to do that. So I let him eat ice cream. And he was about 2.5 at the time. And I'll never forget, we were driving a 2-hour drive after that. And he literally talked nonstop for 2 hours and very incoherent and very blah, blah, like his brain was on fire. And so knowing that food can affect the brain and the body and the regulation, it's important to understand that and to be aware of that. And what else did we talk about? And sensory integration, actually, when I first started 20 years ago, that was considered an alternative approach. And now it's really mainstream for a lot of our kiddos. So, it's good. And hippotherapy, that was another one that was shared that I know my kids did. I know a lot of other people have found that to be very, very, very helpful. And also, sometimes it's not helpful. If you go and try it and your child is absolutely scared to death of the horses, it may not be the best choice for them. Or they may love it, or they may be afraid, but get over that fear and then get confident, right? Follow the cues of your child when choosing different approaches. So I have I'm just looking over here one more time to see if there was anything else. Conductive therapy was also shared, and that's kind of like Alexander technique, where you go through a lot of movements, rote movements to work on posture and coordination. That one was actually a new one for me. Oh, and we spoke about auditory processing disorder, because this also affects a lot of our kids, especially a lot of kids with ADHD. And that is when, because we were talking about focusing, right? How to help kids focus. And a lot of kids with auditory processing disorders, now there's variations of how the auditory information is processed, and whether irregularly for the child, there's different components, but one of the most common is when a child, or anyone, where the sounds, they can't decipher foreground and background. So to them, the buzzing light is coming at them to the same frequency as the teacher's voice. And it's very hard for them, and exhausting for them, to really weed out and focus on one when both noises are coming at the same level. So that's something to be aware of. Our kids, when they're struggling, there's a reason. There really is a reason. And diving in and understanding what could possibly be some of the components for why our kids are struggling. So we're talking about that, of going through auditory processing, looking at getting the hearing checked through an audiologist. And yeah, so those were some of the main things that we shared. And where to start in the beginning. Like, if you have a child and you're new to this, and different approaches and what's out there and therapies, you can always start with a developmental pediatrician, because they really go a little bit more in depth and to look at your child's development, and they will kind of start you on that track to look at where to get services and support for your child, and see if your child does have any delays in development. Because sometimes as parents, we may not know, especially if it's our first kid, is this a delay? Is this not a delay? And so getting that extra feedback through a developmental pediatrician is very helpful. So if you want, go ahead and click on the link below to look at some of the webinars if you want to go deeper into different approaches to support your child's development. Also, tonight I am hosting an open house for a platform that I and two other colleagues have just created, called The Empowered Parent. And we created this platform so we can share things like this. We can have that open space to meet weekly in a weekly cafe, relaxed setting, where we can share different stories, ideas, and we can also give different tools and tips to support parents on their parenting journey, because there's so much information out there, and we don't want to do overload, but we want to support as things come up, and we want to have a community of parents supporting one another, because it's not easy raising kids, and especially kids with high needs. So this is why we created this really low cost platform to be a resource for parents. So if you want to check out the open house, that link is down below, or you can just jump right in and check out the platform. We'll also host another open house if you can't make this one, next month. So I hope some of those tips helped, and I look forward to seeing you next month. The next monthly meetup, we are going to talk about the benefits of boundaries for us and for our children. So I'm excited about that one. So hope to see you there, and hope you can make it. Thanks. Bye.